Hey,
Hey,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit for everybody?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Gwen Svekis. I am one of the catchers for Athletes Unlimited. I am also a catcher for the Chicago Bandits of the MPF. I played my 4 collegiate years at the University of Oregon. I'm a Duck through and through. I actually cleaned out my childhood room today and found this sweatshirt from when we opened Jane Sanders at the University of Oregon. So I had a great 4 years there. Couldn't imagine a better college experience. And I got drafted 3rd overall to play for the Bandits. And now I've been a part of this exciting new venture that is Athletes Unlimited. And I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Can you tell everybody a little bit about Athletes Unlimited? Because it is so new and I think it's so exciting. So, if you could tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, Athletes Unlimited is going to be a new sport network. It's not just for softball. It's actually going to be for a multitude of sports, but lucky for me, we're starting with softball. And it's a new fast-paced environment where every moment counts that you play. So you're accumulating points throughout the week based on if your team wins, based on your personal performance, based on if you get named MVP. And then at the end of the week, the 4 players with the top points draft the next week's team. So it's going to be constantly moving, and every moment is going to count in Athletes Unlimited, which is really cool. Another really cool thing is that us players are the owners. So we've been involved in all the decision-making processes, and we're owners in the sense that we're accumulating shares of the company every game that we play. So that's another really unique part about Athletes Unlimited.
Yeah, I love the whole concept of it. I think it's so cool. You mentioned points for the players. So, who actually will be in charge of giving out points to the players?
So we are in the process of determining a list of things you can get points for. So if you get a single, you get 10 points. If you hit a double, you get 20 points, triple 30, home run 40, for example. If you steal a base, you get 10 points. If you get caught stealing, you lose 10 points. So that's like a really brief example of what it's going to look like. And you're just constantly accumulating. You get points for winning the inning. You get points for winning the game. So the most important thing is still winning the game. We want to make sure that we don't lose sight of that. The team win is, first and foremost in this league as well. But it's really cool because it's also weaving in your own personal performance and being able to accumulate points based on how you do.
So, with your points, for example, the home run example, do you get bonus money if you hit a really crazy home run or you make a play that, earns you a bunch of points? Do you get bonus money for that?
So at the end of the year, the players are going to be ranked 1 to 56. And depending on where you fall among the rankings, you're going to get a end of the year bonus. So if you're player number 1, you're going to get the highest bonus. If you're player number 56, you're going to get the lowest bonus, but a bonus nonetheless. So a way to think about it that I like to explain is that if your team wins a lot and you perform high, you're going to be at the top of the player ranking chart and probably get a higher bonus. If your team loses a lot, but you still do really well, you're probably going to be in the middle. If you do poorly and your team does poorly throughout the 6 weeks, then you're probably going to be at the bottom of the player chart.
That's awesome. So What interested you the most about Athletes Unlimited?
Well, I'm super passionate about women in sports in general, and I was really excited. I got a call this October about a new business venture, about a new league that was developing, and I love innovation. I love all of it. I love that there were finally some investors that wanted to put money and put something behind pro women's sports, and for us specifically, women's softball. So that's something that immediately caught my eye. And then once I heard the vision and I started to sort of understand the way that the league was going to be run and how us players had so much stake in it, I really loved that idea, and I was sold.
Yeah, and what are you the most excited for this upcoming season?
I'm really excited to get to play with a lot of top athletes that I've never played with, and also get to be revolving teams with those top players. So I could be on a team of, 10 All-Americans one day, and then the next day a new set of 10 All-Americans. So I think that's going to be really cool. I think that the idea of being able to build camaraderie among 56 players rather than just being on one team where you're building team chemistry is going to be different, but I think it's going to be a really exciting and fun part.
So you just said that you kind of changed the team you're playing on. Can you explain a little bit more about how the team structure is going to work? I know you said that the players get to draft their players, but I think that's something I'd really love to hear more about.
Yeah, so at the end of the week, they're going to go to the overall player ranking that I kind of described earlier, where players are ranked 1 to 56. The top 4 players are going to then become captains of the next week's team. So if I'm the top player number 1, then I get to, draft first, and then we're going to go through a full draft, like kickball style, where you're picking your team, and it's going to change from next week. I think statistically speaking, you'll probably have a good core stay on every team, but it's going to keep it changing and moving and very fluid. And then there are going to be 4 players that are not drafted at all that don't have the opportunity to get points for that week.
Okay, and how would those people be determined to be those 4 players?
So those will just be the 4 that aren't drafted in the draft. So there's going to be 15 players on a team, but there are 56 players total. So we go through the draft. You have an allotment of players for each position, and you're drafting players to those positions. Then at the end of that, everybody who was not drafted gets put into this unlimited pool, and everybody gets to draft 1 more player. And then at the end, there are going to be 4 that are undrafted.
Very cool. So one of the things you said that I thought was so interesting was you get to face new people all the time and also play with new people all the time, which is super cool and so different.
Yeah.
Who is the toughest opponent you've ever faced?
Oh, man. Toughest opponent I've ever faced.
Either as a team or an individual player.
Okay, I'm going to have to go with team here, and I'm going to say the UCLA Bruins when I was in college. It was obviously super high stakes because I went to the University of Oregon, so that was just our softball rival, and we always had a good game against them, and they always had a good game against us. They've upset us before, we upset them before, and I just always knew going into the UCLA weekend, you didn't know what was going to happen, and it was going to be really great competition. So I'd say probably the Bruins, yeah.
Awesome. So with that being said, what moment in your career so far are you the most proud of?
Are we talking? Okay, the moment of my career that I'm most proud of would be a collective team win. We were playing the University of Kentucky in Super Regionals my senior year, and we had lost the first game. And they kicked our butts. Abby Cheek hit 2 moonshot bombs that I think are still going, and we felt like we just couldn't find our way out of that hole. And Miranda Ellis, who is one of our pitchers that year, took the ball, went in the circle. We won a nitty-gritty win for our second win, came back, and we tied up the series 1-1. And then our last game, we ended up handing it to them the way that we thought that we could. But I think as a whole, that's one of 2 series that really has been branded in my brain, and a moment I'm really proud to have been a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. So your college career is something that we've spoken about both here and when we were on the phone yesterday. What was your recruiting process like?
So I'm from South Florida, and I started getting recruited when I was 15 years old, which I think now would be considered late, but with the new rule change, maybe it would be early again. I started getting recruited when I was 15 years old, and I was first contacted by Florida State University, or maybe I contacted them. I forget how it went back then, but Florida State University. And I loved Florida State, but I knew that I didn't necessarily want to end up in Florida. And I love that staff. I still have a really great relationship with that staff, which I'm thankful for. But my dream school at the time was the University of Michigan. And I loved everything about Michigan. I really, and I still do. I think Hutch is one of the coolest coaches in the game. And I still wish I could pick her brain one of these days from the player's perspective. But I ended up being in the right place at the right time. I was guesting for a team, and I had been emailing Oregon nonstop, and what happened was I just was playing and I was guessing for a team, and Coach White, or one of the assistant coaches at the time, Coach Miller, showed up to a game and I hit a bomb. It was the right time. The girl I was facing on the mound was going to Baylor, so obviously she was a quality pitcher. And then it brought them back. So they came to another game and I hit another bomb, and I seemed to do well every time Coach White showed up to the ballpark. So things just sort of happened the way that they were supposed to happen. And Oregon had everything that I wanted. They had the financial assistance that I needed. They had the coaching staff I wanted to play for, and they had the environment I wanted to be in as a college student and as an athlete. So they checked every box of mine, and I showed up on campus one day, my first time at Oregon, and I stepped off the plane and was like, this is it. And my parents were like, no, you're going to go on your other visits. You're going to go see these other schools. I turned to them. I said, no, this is it. This is where I want to be. And I ended up committing at the end of the weekend, and I'm a Duck through and through. I'll go through a wall for my Ducks.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. And I definitely love to hear, especially when people go on college visits and they just know, because it's just like the place for you. Like you walk in there and it's like a homecoming, and it's like, I didn't even step foot on the campus yet, and I just knew.
Yep. Exactly. That's exactly what happened.
So I will be fielding some of your questions, everyone. I know that you're leaving questions in the comments, but I do have some of my own as well. So my first question is, when did you first start playing softball?
Started playing softball when I was 8 years old. I was originally a cheerleader, and I really wanted to be a flyer. That's all I wanted, was to be a flyer. But I was a back spot. I think that's what they're called, where you just hold the ankles and then you catch them when they come down. And I hated that, because I wanted to go to the very top. I wanted to be at the top of the formation, the pyramid, whatever. And they told me that I was too tall, too big, whatever it was. I forget. But I ended up turning my parents be like, I don't want to do this if I can't be a flyer. So I quit, and they were like, well, you got to do something. And softball tryouts were going on at the same park. And so I went over to softball tryouts, and I fell in love immediately. I thought it was like kickball at first. My first day, I pegged a girl square in the back, thinking that was how you got people out. So there was a bit of a learning curve, but I fell in love immediately. And I was 8 years old.
That's awesome. I love the I thought it was the kickball. That's amazing. And I too was deemed too big to be a flyer, and I feel your pain like years later. It still hurts to know like you're not allowed. It's like, hey, I don't want to be the person who they land on. I want to be the person landing on them.
Right?
Yeah. But what did you love about softball from the beginning?
I loved hitting from the very beginning. I always had a knack for hitting. I was a little angry little 8-year-old girl, and hitting just always seemed to make me feel better. I could swing as hard as I wanted. I somehow found the ball with my bat easy enough, and that was what I loved from the very beginning. And I was originally third baseman, and then it got to the point, I think probably when I was around 10 years old, where I was the only one that could throw it all the way across the field. So my coach, Coach Kevin, who I played for until I was 15 years old, put me behind the plate, and I never left. And I fell in love with being a catcher, because I was easily distracted, and I felt like being involved in every single play kept me there. And I love softball because it perfectly combines individual sports and team sports. And you've got the camaraderie and being able to be a team, and you also have the ability to succeed as an individual.
Would you say that's what you love about being a catcher, is just the constant involvement in the game? Like there's no just kind of waiting around, like you're constantly a part?
Yeah, I would say as a very simple answer, that would be my answer. But the older I've gotten, my favorite part about catching is just the level of pitcher that I've been able to catch. I've been able to catch some of the best pitchers, I think, in our game right now. And catching a pitcher of that quality is truly like watching an artist go to work. And I had a good enough relationship with my pitchers in college where we didn't really need anyone to call signs. We kind of were on the same page always, and we just knew what the other wanted without really having to say anything. So I think the older I've gotten, that's my favorite part about catching, is just being able to see pitchers be so, precise with their work and on top of their art.
So with Athletes Unlimited, you're probably going to be catching with a whole bunch of different people that you typically wouldn't be working with. So who are you the most excited to work with? and to play with?
So we don't have everybody signed up right now. We only have 20 athletes signed up. But I would say of the 20 athletes, pitching wise, I'm, of the ones that I've never worked with before, I'm really excited to catch Sarah Gromwagon because I know hitting off of her is like miserable because she has this deadly changeup that comes out of nowhere, and she can match that with high 60s, low 70s fast stuff up on your hands. So I'm really excited to catch her and sort of see the way she works. And then I'm also excited to watch Sam Shao work, both in the circle and up to bat. I'm just waiting to see my first Sam Shao bat flip in person.
Oh, yeah. So what is your favorite softball memory?
Okay, my favorite softball memory, are we talking actually playing on the field or just in general revolving the game of softball?
If you have one of each, I'll take both.
Okay. My favorite softball memory that's just revolving around the game was my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer my junior year of college. And she actually got to throw out the first pitch at our breast cancer game that year. So that was probably one of the most special moments of my entire career. We had Nike and Oregon made these really unique, customized pink uniforms that were like real uniforms. They weren't just like pink t-shirts with our numbers on the back. They were like real, well done uniforms. And just being able to represent that cause and my mom actually be able to throw out the first pitch was, I think, the most memorable moment of my career as a whole. And then as a player, my that series against UCLA that I always talk about, my senior year, we were playing them at home, and we were playing them early on in the Pac-12, and we knew that we were two of the top dogs in the Pac-12 that year. So whoever won that series was definitely going to have a leg up in winning the Pac-12 as a whole. And we were tied 1-1 in the series, and it happened to be the pink game actually. And I was on second base, and Shannon Rhodes stepped up to the plate. Shannon Rhodes plays at Texas now, and she hit a bomb off Rachel Garcia to walk off the game. And it was like the most emotional moment I've had in one single game in my life, after the end of my career. So that's probably one of my favorite in-game moments that I've been a part of.
That's amazing. So those are your favorite memories. What's the funniest thing that ever happened to you while you were playing softball?
The funniest thing that's ever happened while playing softball. I don't know that I can think of something where I'm like, wow, that's hysterical.
I mean, you literally
I
pet
remember
somebody in the back with a ball. Like, that's up there.
That's up there. I remember once I think it was either my freshman or my sophomore year. Actually, no, this is it. And this is like really not funny at the time, but in hindsight, it's been hysterical. My freshman year, we were playing at Stanford, and our first baseman had a concussion. So our starting catcher was playing first, and then I was behind the plate. And I remember our second baseman dropped a pop-up, and then I dropped a pop-up, and then our first baseman dropped a pop-up all in a row. It was like boom, boom, boom. And Coach White came out and was like, any old fool can catch a pop-up. No. We were hitting, and he said, we kept popping up, and he's like, any old fool can catch a pop-up. And then that next inning, we had dropped the 3 pop-ups in a row. So I remember at the time it was like terrifying, but in hindsight, it's one of my funnier memories of college.
That's awesome. So what athlete did you idolize growing up?
I was a huge Miguel Cabrera fan and Bo Jackson fan. And then the older I got, I'm a huge, huge, huge Serena Williams fan. So when I was little, I'm from South Florida, so I was a diehard Marlin. My dad would take me to the park. We'd get there like 2 hours before Marlins games, which is just crazy thinking about how long baseball games are in general. And we would sit out front and wait for the players to get there in the hopes that we would get a signature from one of them or something like that. And I remember when I was little, I don't remember exactly how old I was, probably in the 10 to 12-year-old range. And we did that. And I remember Miguel Cabrera got out of the car with Alfredo Amezica, who were both Marlins. And I got his signature on a baseball, and it was like one of the best memories of my whole childhood. So he was like my favorite player forever, is still one of my favorite players that is in the major leagues. And then Bo Jackson obviously is just a beast all around. And I just loved his 30 for 30 that came out, had me fall in love with him whenever I first watched that. And then as a woman in professional sports, I'm just in love with Serena Williams. I think she's a total, she's like such a badass and so cool. And I just love everything that she stands for and who she is as an athlete, being able to have a kid and come back and, still be one of the best athletes in the world. I think she's so cool.
I think she's so cool. She's so unbelievable. I love her cat suit. I think she's like the greatest. But if you could have dinner with any 3 female athletes, dead or alive, who would you choose? And I'm assuming Serena's probably one of the 3.
Serena's one of them, definitely. Billie Jean King, probably, and Megan Rapinoe. I would say that's my, or Rapinoe. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I hope I said it right. But those would be probably my 3 as of right now, because I just think that they're trailblazers. They stand up for everything that I believe in. And, being a woman in professional sports isn't always easy. And they've been just ultimate role models for me and for the younger generation of females growing up in sport. And I would love to sit down to dinner and pick their brain.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would give probably anything if I could, go be on that float with the U.S. soccer team. They just look like they're having the best time.
Yeah, they're so cool.
So I'm going to field some fan questions, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many games will you be playing in a season with AU?
So it's going to be a 6-week period. The first week is going to be like a training, like a spring training kind of thing, where we're just like combine training, getting reps, shaking off the dust if people need to do that. And then it's going to be 3 games a week for the next 5 weeks.
Okay.
So 15 games per player, but overall it's going to be 4 times 3 is 12. So 12 times 5. So
60?
What is that? 60 games.
Okay. And what is your game day routine like?
I actually don't have a crazy interesting game day routine, only because I try to avoid superstitions as much as possible. I found that if I get stuck in a super routine, that if anything goes wrong, I'll doom myself from the beginning. So my game day routine is pretty much I wake up, make myself breakfast, and then I'll go to a hot yoga class. I really love core power yoga. I'm a regular when I'm in training season because it keeps me loose and also gets me a good workout going. And then I'll come home, make lunch, head to the field, listen to some music, take BP, get ready for the game. I'm pretty simple when it comes to game days. And then post game, I like to sit in my Normatec boots and flush out my legs.
Yeah. And so this is from the RT coach. What is your mindset going up to bat?
My mindset is I'm actually someone who tends to overthink a little bit. So when I go up to bat, I try to think about who am I facing. So if I'm going up against Rachel Garcia, who is, one of the most dominant rise balls in the game, I'm not going to be sitting on a drop ball. She might throw me one, but I'm going up there thinking, okay, what is this person's best pitch? How are they going to try to beat me? And then me counter moving, how do I then go out and attack them at their strength? So I always assume a pitcher is going to pitch their strength to me, and then I adjust from there. I do get a decent amount of changeups, so sometimes I factor that into my approach, but it just depends on who it is, how good their changeup is, and all that stuff. But I found that when I think less, I do better, but I'm also like super analytical when it comes to the game, so I'm constantly like the wheel is always turning in my head. But bottom line is I go up there and I try to think about what is this pitcher's strength, and then how am I going to beat that strength.
Do you have any advice for young players who may have anxiety or stress before they go up to bat?
Yeah, I would say that something that helped me a lot was, truly as simple as it sounds, learning how to breathe. I am just like constantly taking gigantic deep breaths. When I hit in the cages, I try to exhale on contact. And I found that when I'm breathing, my heart rate stays lower and I'm way more in control of myself. When I let my heart rate get up, I also can get really anxious sometimes if I let that happen. So I'm huge into breathing, slowing things down, and also just reminding yourself that this is a game. And this is something I wish I would have learned a lot earlier on in my career, but it took me a while to sort of separate me as an athlete and me, and understand that I'm not defined by my performance. I'm not defined by being a softball player. I'm Gwen, and part of Gwen's identity is that she is a softball player, but it's not what makes me me. So being able to separate the two and understand that this is a game and it's meant to have fun. And as soon as you stop having fun, that's when you lose the game. And then on top of that, something that's been really hard for me to learn over the years is that it's a game of failure. I mean, if a lawyer came up to you, you're sitting in prison facing 20 years in prison, and they said 40% of the time I'm pretty good, would you want that lawyer? It's like, no, I would never want that lawyer to represent me. But in our game, you succeed 40% of the time and you're an All-American. So it took me a while to understand that failure is 100% part of our game. Whether you're 8 years old or you're 23 years old, it's still failure. It's still failure, and learning how to combat that failure and get better every day. Keep moving forward, and never let your failures sort of pull you down into a hole that you can't get out of.
Yeah, absolutely. This one is from Mariah, which I could spell out, but it's very long. How do you feel about the coronavirus canceling softball games for seniors last year, or high school?
Yeah, I think it's a super emotional time. I know that there's obviously the NCAA is trying to figure out how to get some eligibility back to those seniors, but it's hard. I mean, a lot of seasons were rolling. A lot of teams were doing really well. I was personally in the middle of my GA experience at Indiana University, so watching some careers come to an end in one moment was obviously really emotional, and something that has never happened before and we weren't prepared for. So it's been hard, and it's been hard obviously for our whole country to respond. We're losing a lot more than just softball. All sports have been canceled, and it's been a really emotional and trying time. But I also understand it, and I understand that the importance is keeping everybody safe. And I read a tweet a couple weeks back, or like not a couple weeks back, gosh, this last week has felt like a whole month. But a baseball player said, if I have to give up the end of my senior season so that someone can spend 10 more years with their grandparents, I'm willing to do it. So I've been trying to keep that in perspective and understand that this is a world health decision, not just us all losing our season. So it's been hard, but I'm just taking it one day at a time, as I hope everybody is, staying safe and hoping that there's a solution at the end of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any recommendations for people who are looking to continue to practice from home, or kind of just stay active while they may be stuck at home?
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of really great, in terms of just staying active, simply getting your workouts in and stuff. There are a lot of great workout sites that are giving free trials. So I know one, for example, is Peloton, which is an app that I love to use, has a free 90-day trial right now to keep people moving. I think that's one that people should take advantage of. And then in terms of softball, just go back to the basics. And, I've been taking my dad to the ballpark, which actually just got closed, but we're going to go outside later and just throw the ball around, work on strengthening my arm. You can play wall ball, set up a tee into a net, like old school style, just refining the little details of your craft. So there's always something you can do, always a way to get better. You can look up drills online. There's a lot you can do with a wall and a ball. So grab a partner, grab a wall, and you can get a lot done. And Peloton is spelled Peloton.
I think I am a huge Peloton fan. You have to send me your Peloton username so we can take classes together.
Okay.
Huge Peloton fan. I will put the link somewhere so you guys can sign up for Peloton if you guys need. But yes, I'm also a huge Peloton fan. And then the other question I have for you is, are you so excited for to start?
I'm so excited. I'm excited. Luckily, with Athletes Unlimited and everything going on with the coronavirus, it has a little bit more of a time cushion to get things figured out. But I'm so excited to be at the ground floor of it all. I'm so excited to be in the decision-making process, and mostly I'm excited to get back on the field and play again, because it feels like it's been forever since I've been able to play. So I'm excited, and I just can't wait to play this year. And I hope you guys stay tuned to everything Athletes Unlimited has in store. We're going to be doing a lot of Q&As, so come back and spend more time with us.
Yes, please do. And guys, go follow. It's at AU Pro Sports. And go follow Gwen if you'd like to say your username.
Oh, at GSVEKIS21.
So go follow Gwen, go follow AU Pro Sports, and definitely stay tuned for both accounts, and we'll be providing some updates about the season and everything you guys need to know. Thank you so much for being here, Gwen.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks everyone for coming.
Bye everyone. Thank you.